known as the Book of Being, was written by Amy Blake Hardison and Alan D. Thompson. And I'd like to take this moment, as we always do, to acknowledge their magnificent collaboration and commitment in creating the ultimate coach and everything that's done for us and people around the globe. Yay. So today we have our special guest is Karen Davis. Karen, you can wave. And Karen's going to read chapter 18, Steve Chandler. And we are so grateful, Karen, that you said yes. And love that. So it's actually kind of an interesting special day for me. As a Team Tuck member, we agree we want to sign up for moderator spots, and I was a little late to the game this year, and there were very few that were available, and I just plugged. I didn't even look and see what chapter this was. I just saw an opening, and I put my name in, and then lo and behold, it's Steve Chandler, who I met for the first time about a month and a half ago at Mike Coates' house. That was amazing. I got this book, Tanya, and Karen. I bought dozens of these, and this is a book called How to Get the Most Out of Coaching. And I just have to say that I have learned so much as a coach from your book, and as a client to my coach, I am such a better client. So I thank you and your co-writer, Alex, for in creating such an amazing piece. So I'd like to acknowledge you for that. So Karen, it's such a treat to have you read for us today in community as we read along with you from the Book of Being entitled The Ultimate Coach. And as it always is, this event is a co-created space for deeper experience of the book and to further explore being in community. As we begin today, please share in the chat one word that describes your being in this very moment. Take a second to do that. One word that describes your being or who you're being. Grateful. Ooh, coming in fast. Love, inspired, blessed. Happiness, studentship, restoring, present, and loving. Joy. Wow, I'm getting shivers reading this. It's such great ways of being, and guess what? We all created it ourselves. Nobody caused it but ourselves. So I want to acknowledge all of you for entering those being words. Team Tuck wants to take a moment to acknowledge each one of you for being here today. Your presence is valued in this co-creative space. And as Steve Hardison offers us to consider, the intention for the book reading is to expand our state of being. So take a short moment and recognize your being in this room. I'm going to pause for 5 or 10 seconds just so you can recognize who you're being in this room and who you're being with in this room. Another note we'd like to share, Team Tuck would like to share, is that while acknowledgments of one another are powerful, we request that you share about you. And if you feel called to acknowledge someone, we ask that you reach out privately or in the Ultimate Coach Facebook group. Either way, that gives you an opportunity to deepen your connections. So as a gentle reminder, we request that when you read about you. When you listen about you. And when it comes time to share, And we love your shares. They make this room. We love them. So when it's time to share, share about you. So please be aware too that as you are sharing, and if you were to start to share about an idea of someone, not you, we may lovingly guide you back. And it's only from a place of love that we do so. So share about you, and thank you for being conscious of that. So this is a space where we honor the sacred gift of being through respectful community listening. And I always remember this from Steve Hardison at the very first Ultimate Experience. The power is in the listener, or you might have said with the listener. Same thing for me. So powerful. So at this time, I'd like to pass on moderation of the book reading to co-host Elizabeth. Elizabeth?
Woo! Thank you, Tom. Thank you for getting us started. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited. Wednesday night for me, Thursday morning for you guys, such an amazing time. And I just want to take a minute to say thank you to each and every one of you for coming and being present with us tonight or this morning, whatever time of day it is for you. I also want to say thank you to Karen. I appreciate you being here and being our guest reader as well. Anybody who is present, I would love to see your book. So if you have a physical copy, can you please hold it up? I would love to see it. Look at all the books. Awesome. And I would love to find out, is there anybody in this group? It's their first time coming. If you can, go down to the little reaction tab and raise your hand. I would love to see if we have any first timers in our group tonight. Ooh, yay. Sation and Karen. Who else do we got? I'm sneaking through my pages here. We have anybody else? If I'm missing anybody, I'm sorry. Da, 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 da. I think we got it all, right? Just the two. Okay. So, Sation, did you have your book with you?
Yeah, it's somewhere behind me. I can't
Okay.
remember where I left it.
Well, since this is your first time, and usually what we do is we invite people to read, whether it's the back cover or the first two pages of the book. We usually ask for volunteers, but since this is like a first time for you, I just want to say thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up and being here with us. But do you feel called to read the back cover of the book for us this evening?
In typical fake guru fashion, I'm going to ask you a question to answer your question. Am I being voluntold to read the back cover?
Absolutely not. If
No, I'm just
you
playing with
feel
you.
called, yeah.
I would love to. Let me go grab my book.
Yay. All right. So he's going to do the back cover of the book. Who else would like to volunteer to read the first two pages? Hold your book up if you want. Raise your hand. Let's see who we got in here. Dun, dun. I'm scrolling through pages. I see Dave's holding up the book. I see Martha's holding up the book. Slip back to page 8. Okay, Dave, Martha, I'm going to let you fight for it. Dave says paper, rock, scissors, shoot. What's Martha got? You're on two different screens. All right. I'm gonna let Dave go because I don't think Dave's read recently. Have you, Dave? Yeah. Okay, then
I
Martha.
mean, it's been, but Martha has too. I don't know. It occurs to me like Martha did too, but I'm not sure of that.
Okay. Well, Station's got his book back, so I'm gonna go ahead with Dave since we had you unmuted. I'll let you go ahead and read if that's all right. So we'll get this thing rolling. So typical fashion, we start with the back cover of the book. We'll switch over to the front two pages, and then we'll follow right up with Karen going in to read chapter 18. So when you're listening or when you're reading, whichever role you're playing, just remember, listen, absorb it about yourself, read it about yourself, and then later on, we'll share about ourselves and we'll all grow together. So I'm going to go ahead and send it over to Station. We're going to let you go ahead and start in and read that back cover of the book.
Real quick, little request. My name's Sachin. When we say Sachin, it sounds like Satan. And
No.
I've left those days behind me, Chief.
All right. So Sachin.
All good. Thank you.
Perfect. There we go.
Dear potential reader, as you may have noticed, there are no testimonials on the back cover of this book imploring you to read it. I vetoed that. The only testimonial I am interested in is the one you will have from reading and experiencing this book. Please do not read this book about me. Read this book about you. Read it about being. As you read, ask yourself, who would I need to be a more loving person? Who would I need to be a more effective parent? Who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? Who would I need to be at peace with who I am? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? I promise you that if you read this book with the intention of expanding your state of being, you will do exactly that. Your experience will be remarkable. Who you are being is everything. Loving you, be blessed, be you, SFH.
Before you begin, Steve Hardison, I never wanted to write a book, and I haven't. I never wanted to have a book written about me, but here it is. This book is a gift from my wife, Amy, who wrote it, and my friend Alan D. Thompson, who conducted the research and interviews on which it is based. And it's not just a gift to me, but to you too. And now you're reading it. So with your permission, I'll give you some suggestions on how to read it. You see, this isn't an ordinary book. It's not simply a biography. It's not a self-help book. It's not a literary classic. It's definitely not a book about how to coach. In fact, it's not a book about doing anything. It's a book about being, and it's a book about you. To access this book, ask yourself these questions as you read. Who am I being as a partner, parent, or friend? Who am I being as a leader? Who am I being as a member of my community? Who would I need to be to have miracles show up in my daily life? Who would I need to be to create value in the work I do? Who would I need to be to generate a life of abundance? Who would I need to be to alter my relationship with fear? Who would I need to be at peace with my past? Who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? Who would I need to be present as a way of being? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? Who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to improve my relationships with the most important people in my life? Who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough in being wonderful me? The best part about this book about you, is that it is endless. The story goes on, and it's written by your being. Loving you, be blessed, be you. Steve Hardison.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm really honored to be here with all of you. When Tanya reached out and she asked if I would read this chapter about Steve Chandler, I was an instant, absolutely yes. And Steve Chandler, for me, has been probably one of the most important influences in my life. I met him for the first time back in 2013, and we have been working together pretty steadily, except for the year that I worked with Steve Hardison between 2021 and 2022. But I felt like when I was working with Steve Hardison that I was working with Steve Chandler, because there's a lot of influences between the two of them. And one of the wonderful things that occurred when I was working with Steve Hardison was Amy was working on the transcript for this book. And so Steve would bring the transcript into the studio because I always arrived an hour early. And so I feel like I've been reading this book since it first hit the pages, and there were many versions. There was a version that was 500 pages, and then this version. And so this book is very important to me. It has had a huge impact on me, and both of the Steves have had a tremendous influence in my life. So I'm very honored to be here with all of you this evening and to have the opportunity to read this chapter. Chapter 18, Steve Chandler. Dennis Deaton's speaking schedule was full, yet requests were coming in. Dennis was the CEO and co-founder of Timex, now Cuma. He was also their primary presenter. Hardison recommended that Steve Chandler, the director of marketing, take the overflow. Chandler's deep desire was to be a public speaker, but he had a long way to go. When Chandler spoke, Hardison attended. Afterwards, he would give Chandler feedback. The most valuable was, don't try to be Dennis. Your resume and your experience don't support it. Be you. Let them hear about your failures. They will connect with them. Chandler brought authenticity, humor, and scrappy wisdom to his presentations. People related. Within a year, his courses at Timex were selling out. Soon, Chandler was flying around the country to give his presentations. Chandler represented Timex, but the content of his courses was his own. When Chandler went into corporations, he set his own prices and he paid his own expenses. One day, Hardison and Chandler were sitting in the Timex conference room, looking at a map and discussing Chandler's out-of-state speaking schedule. Hardison asked Chandler how much he was charging. Chandler's price was $1,250 for the whole day. Steve, you have to raise your prices, said Hardison. Chandler started shifting in his seat. I don't want to raise my prices, Chandler said, barely loud enough for Hardison to hear. But you can't even cover your travel expenses at $1,250. You're going in the hole, insisted Hardison. You'll $1,250 yourself to death. Chandler took a deep breath. Well, what's my value? I can't tell you your value. You have to determine that for yourself. Then you deliver on the value you set. If I were you, I would charge $40,000. Chandler choked. But what if they won't pay $40,000? I'd rather get $1,250 than nothing. Steve, said Hardison, they will pay you $40,000. You're worth it. Chandler wasn't so sure. Shortly after this, Motorola approached Reese and Dennis, and they had a problem with morale on their line. Did Timex have some programs that addressed morale and culture? Dennis said no. Reese said no. Chandler said, yes, we do. Dennis and Reese stared at him. Chandler had been working on developing a course to help people take ownership of their own morale and not make others, including their company, responsible for their attitude. When can we see it? They set up a time, and going for broke, they also invited several decision makers from Texas Instruments to come in and observe. No one had any idea what Chandler was going to say. Motorola and Texas Instruments were big companies. They were important clients. It was risky to use them as guinea pigs, and Reese and Dennis were nervous. Chandler hit the ball out of the park. The Texas Instrument execs wanted Chandler, and they wanted him in Texas. They adjourned to the conference room to work out the details. Chandler stood at the board. He wrote 1,250 on the board and started to explain his typical fees. Hardison interrupted. Do you mind if I make it a little easier for you to see what Steve is saying here? Steve charges 1,250 per person for his course. But if you put 100 people in the room, we can get that price down so it's closer to 400 per person. They didn't even bat an eye. They booked 10 dates for 400,000. Chandler had a new speaking fee. It was 40,000 a day. When Hardison first started coaching at Timex, Chandler was working as the marketing director. He wrote ads. He came up with creative ways to get the company's name and services in front of people. He helped with branding, and he hoped people would call. They had one salesperson. When Hardison came on board, he said, "You don't need marketing, you need actual sales." Hardison created a sales team, which Chandler joined. He wanted to be where he could really help. It wasn't a natural fit. A salesperson that quaked at the thought of asking for money was going to have some hard days. This was one of them. Reese Baldwin called Chandler into his office. Hardison was there. They let Chandler know that they were sending him out to collect money that was overdue on one of the accounts. Can't someone else do it? This is hard for me, really hard. This is your account, said Hardison. If you can't collect the money that is due us, you are a liability to this company. I'm not sure I can do it, but I'll try, said Chandler. I don't want you to try, said Hardison. I want you to do it. Trying is an excuse. You know, said Chandler, this client is tough. He runs a gym. He holds world records. I'm not good at asking for money. Then don't be you. Be someone who could do it. Be Brando. Be Bruce Lee. Be anybody who could get it done. I don't care who, as long as you do it. And don't come back to the company until you have the money. I do have a job here, you know, said Chandler. And you still will when you return with the money. Chandler went to the gym and asked the owner for the money that was overdue. He tells the story. The owner said, I can't pay you right now. I might be able to pay you in a couple of weeks. I knew I couldn't take that answer back to Steve. I told him I knew he might have a hard time paying, but I wasn't leaving until I got what he owed the company. We stared at each other for a few minutes. Finally, he said, Are you threatening me? I said, No threat. I'm just not leaving. We have to have the money today, not tomorrow. And you've already broken promises to pay. I understand that, but today that promise can't be broken. I'm returning with the money or I'm not leaving the building. The owner got up and left the room. I'm sure he was wondering if I was going to leave, but I didn't move. After a while, he came back, he shook his head, reached into his drawer, pulled out his checkbook, and wrote a check for the full amount. He handed it to me. I said, thanks. I went back to the company and had the check to Reese. Hardison gave me a high five and he said, You're not the same person you were when you went over there. Do you get that? I said, I kind of get that. I kind of feel that. It ended up being a huge breakthrough for me in life because it showed me two things. First, the things I believed I couldn't do were only beliefs. They weren't really the truth. And second, I learned that it is always about who you need to be, not what you need to do. What you need to do will flow from who you are being. On another occasion, Chandler walked into the conference room, sank into a chair, and lamented to Hardison, I hate selling. Well, you better get used to it because that's all there is. Chandler winced like he had just taken a bullet. I could get a different job. Look, said Hardison, If you think of selling as something a guy in a plaid jacket does when he's trying to convince you to buy something you don't need or want, you will always hate selling. You have to shift how you see it. Selling is enrolling people into your ideas. It's what goes on when someone asks their boss for extra time off. It's what goes on when someone makes a case for a larger office. It's what goes on when your teenager negotiates an extra hour of curfew. Selling is not just about getting what you want. Selling is about serving someone. This was a game changer for Chandler. While selling didn't come naturally to Chandler, writing did. As a young boy, his play included writing make-believe newspapers. His first real job was a sports writer. In college, he majored in creative writing. He went into journalism, became a professional songwriter, and published a poet. It was only natural for him to organize his course material into a book form. He started with a booklet of 10 ways to motivate yourself. When it grew to 25 ways, Chandler took it to Dennis Deaton, who had authored a couple of books on his own. Chandler asked him to read it and tell him if he thought it had potential. Deaton came back and said, "I really don't think you have anything here. It's so disconnected. There's no unifying theme. I just don't see it. I don't think a publisher would be interested." Chandler was disheartened. He showed the manuscript to a friend who was a songwriter who said, "I guess there's a market for this, but it's not me. I wouldn't read the book." Chandler was crushed. He showed the manuscript to Hardison. Hardison was over the moon. "Don't stop. This is great." Chandler found hope. That summer, Chandler's daughter, Stephanie, wanted to earn money for camp. Chandler wrote a query letter, gave her the letter and a list of publishers, and had her send out the manuscript to see if anyone was interested. That's what he told Stephanie. In reality, it was just makeup work. But Chandler started getting phone calls from publishers, in the plural. He called Stephanie at camp to let her know that 7 publishers were interested in his book. After he spoke, there was a long silence. Finally, Stephanie said, "Only 7?" Chandler had come up with 75 more ways to motivate oneself to complete his book. When he did, 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself was published and became a bestseller. Hardison's support never flagged. If they went to lunch together, Hardison would call the manager of the restaurant over to their table and say, "Do you know who this is?" When the manager shook his head, Hardison would say, "This is a very well-known author. He has a best-selling book. I happen to have a copy of it in my car. If you promise to read it, I will give it to you. I promise you it will change how you run your business. It will make a difference in your life." Hardison didn't just have one copy of Chandler's latest book in his car. He had a whole trunk full of them. When he went on vacation, he took an extra suitcase filled with Chandler's books. He gave them away to everyone he met after committing them to read it. If the recipient hedged, he took the book back. He was planting seed books, getting Chandler's name out, and creating him. "Hardison was my greatest promoter," said Chandler. "He had me believe in myself all the way." When Hardison received positive feedback from a client about one of Chandler's books, he would call Chandler on the spot and say, "Steve, so-and-so just told me what your book meant to her. I want her to say it to you directly. Here she is." Chandler says, calls like that kept him going. Chandler's speaking and writing were going well. It was time for him to fly solo. He parted from Timex. he hired Hardison, who had also completed his work with Timex, as his personal coach. One of the first things Hardison tackled was Chandler's relationship with money. It had deep roots. Chandler's grandfather abandoned his family, leaving his family penniless. Everyone in the family worked around the clock to make money. Chandler's dad learned early he could make money if he worked hard enough. It became his creed, and he eventually became a millionaire. Hard work was enshrined in the Chandler household, but young Steve Chandler needed room to dream and think. When his dad said jump, he collapsed. He wasn't carved out of military marble. When his work lacked precision, which it always did, his dad chided, "You don't deserve your allowance. You don't deserve any money." That thought was superglued in Chandler's self-concept, right next to his resentment toward his father. Hardison helped Chandler identify the lies that kept his disempowering beliefs in place. He didn't deserve money. He didn't work hard. He couldn't do hard things. Chandler was finding freedom. Then Hardison said, "Stop making your father wrong." "What?" asked Chandler. "If he grew up poor, he feared you would too. He was afraid for you." Fear shows up as anger and sarcasm in men. He was afraid. He loved you. He wanted you to be strong and responsible when it came to money. He wanted you to be safe. He loved you. Chandler began to cry. For the rest of their session, Chandler talked about his father. He resurrected good memories, memories without resentments. He told Hardison how his father became a millionaire industrialist in Detroit, how he fought the unions, how he was approached by the mafia and stood up to them and turned them down, how brave he was. Before Chandler left that day, Hardison challenged him to write a song for his father. He spent a week writing the song. One verse reads, "And I'd give everything I own right now just to tell you how I feel, just for one more hour with my father, heart of gold, man of steel." Chandler's praise for Hardison's coaching is copious. This is the abridged version. "I love his teaching and training. It is fierce, it is powerful, and it is effective." Chandler and Hardison currently have a lifetime agreement. They call it the Can't Fog a Mirror Agreement. Hardison will be coaching Chandler until one or the other of them is no longer breathing.
Those of you who have your book, if you flip to that last page of this chapter, you'll see the Steves together. Oh, what an amazing chapter. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I could listen to Karen talk all day. What a beautiful voice you have. Amazing. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to flip back over to our very first reader. And in true fashion for our book readings, we always give the opportunity to the person who reads the back cover of the book to share what came up for you from this reading. So if you would like to share with us, we would appreciate that, Sachin.
Thank you. First of all, hi, Karen, and thank you. I agree with what Elizabeth said. I could listen to you talk all day. This chapter of the book really it's a good slap in the face for me anytime I read it. And what was coming to me today was reported world, created world. This was the last session I had with Steve on Tuesday, and you know what I report to myself and then buy into. It's like I've got a newscaster in my head, and the newscaster is like, "Mayday, mayday, everyone, the world's collapsing." and financial struggle. Oh my God, go stockpile your canned goods and dig a hole in the ground, and let's all cross our fingers and hope that you live until tomorrow. Holy shit, hot damn. There you go. And that's that. Reading this, hearing you read this really reminds me of that. You know, like, what do I tell myself I can't do? Who do I tell myself that I am? What ideas about who I think I am I coveting like an infant? Like, no, don't take it away from me. This is my child. And it's like I'm, you know, like a fireman carrying an infant out of a burning building. I'm carrying these ideas about myself around as though they're, you know, attached to me, or like they've come from me, and there's no way I could ever possibly get rid of them, like you would never possibly get rid of a child. I'm talking really fast, but I'm just yeah, I'm really feeling that. I'm really feeling the ridiculousness of these ideas about myself that I've been married to. I couldn't do that. I couldn't ask for that. How would I be perceived if I was to ever speak of such things? Oh my God. And it's just a nice refresher, you know, every time I hear Steve Chandler stories, it's so relatable. He had that I don't believe in myself, and it's very human. And I don't like to admit that I have it sometimes, because I think, oh no, like, wagging finger moment, you're a coach, you should have that. How dare you? You know, you're into personal development. And just listening to read this, Karen, is it's a really nice nod back in the direction of when I slow down and I look at what would I like to create, who would I like to create myself to be. It just boils down to choice. He didn't give himself a choice. I'm not leaving here without the money. I'm not threatening you. I'm just not leaving here without the money. And yesterday at the end of my kickboxing class, I was telling Tanya this earlier. I said to my coach, "Hey, I'm done. What else are we doing?" He said, "Nothing. Go home." And I said, "Okay, well, I don't feel like I'm done. I'm just going to do 100 burpees." And he said, "Okay, whatever." And I voluntold one of the other guys in our class to do it with me, and we did it. Well, he finished at 50. I finished at 100, and it was someone asked me, like, "How did you do all of that?" And I said, "Well, I just said I would, and I said I'll do it, and that's it." It does, and what I'm hearing in this is it doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to be rocket science. It doesn't need to make sense in some, you know, personal development, clever sounding way. It can just be choice. And I think there's nothing more freeing than that. I'm sorry I've rambled for so long, but thank you. Thanks for offering me the opportunity to share.
No, I think that was awesome. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with sharing what comes up for you. That's exactly what we want. So we appreciate that. And I love what you said, because it literally does. It gives us the permission to, like, just slow down and, you know, recognize what's really going on. Like, what do I really want to create versus get your crap together, shake that finger at yourself, like, you know, get out of your head and, you know, stop letting those limiting beliefs kind of take over. Yeah. Yeah. That really came up for me just listening to your share. So I appreciate that. Awesome. All right. And then we'll go to Mr. Dave Orton. Would you like to share, Dave?
I would love to. Thank you. Sachin, my man, please don't apologize for dropping gold. Love you, brother. For me, there were a couple of things. I loved what he said to, this resonated with me. Don't try to be Dennis, be you. Let them hear about your failures. They will connect with them. So there's something about performance. If I'm performing or trying to be something that I'm not, I lose a whole lot of power. And I noticed that I was reading today, I was going into like old exercises of drama where we're switching the different stresses of words. So it's like, okay, hold on. Am I performing this? Am I performing this, or is this real? Anyway, the thing is that, you know, we're allowed as humans to have days where we don't feel good. And sometimes and I'm talking about myself here, not feeling great today. Tomorrow I go into report for jury duty, and it's going to be an interesting day. Oh man, this authenticity thing is a big deal. More than authenticity, though, is being enrollable into my own greatness. I love this section where Steve Hardison switched the context for Steve Chandler. Steve charges $1,250 per person for his courses, but today you have a deal, you can get it for less than half off. Oh my goodness. All of a sudden he's speaking for $40,000 a day. For me, when I connect with the greatness in others, and I connect in the greatness in me, I'm inspired. And miracles happen. Miracles for Penny and me, miracles for my clients and me, miracles for you and me, for us, for the world. And this tying the doing into being, you're not the same person you were when you went over there. Do you get that? My coaching company is called DO Coaching, because that's my initials. Do, DO, the coach of being, another coach of being. And yet in the doingness of things, being emerges from time to time. And I love that. Last thing that I really noticed in this reading that was powerful for me was the stop making your father wrong. For me, it stopped making my mother wrong. And I came across this phrase that occurred to me this last week, and I don't think I've shared it here. Basically, it's complaints are the most powerful and sincere form of prayer for more of what I don't want. And so it's, if I'm going to complain, I better complain about more of what I want. Darn it, there's so blasted much money in my bank account, I can't freaking stand it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with all this stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the things that really occurred to me. And I did want to just say thank you, Karen, for that beautiful reading. Love your voice, love your work, and I'm complete, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, for your share. Thank you for all of your inspiration. That was awesome, and we appreciate that as well. All right, Miss Karen, would you like to share?
Yes. So what really stood out for me in this chapter this time, because I've read this many, many times, was Hardison's unrelenting belief in Steve. And that's who I want to be for my clients always, is the person in their world when everyone else says, no, 100 ways to motivate yourself, that won't work, I wouldn't read it. And Hardison, not only does he say, yeah, that's it, that's me, that's who I want to be for everyone in my world. So not just my clients, but my family, my friends, and the people that I meet on the street. And that energy of absolute unrelenting belief in humanity, in people. So that really, really struck me. And you could see how much it really transformed Steve Chandler's life, and what a powerful influence that Hardison has been. So that was one of the first things that really stood out for me, was that reminder of just having this unrelenting belief in humanity, and in particular our clients and those who are close to us, our loved ones. The other that I always love is, who do you need to be? And asking myself when I feel a little bit of fear come up, who do I need to be in order to do that? And I think that's one of the most important questions we can be asking ourselves in any given moment is, who do I need to be in this moment? Do I need to be courageous? Do I need to be fearless? Do I need to be loving? Do I need to be filled with gratitude? Who do I need to be? So that really stood out for me. The other is, stop making your father wrong. And so that always resonates for me. And my father, like Steve's father, was very similar, grew up during the Great Depression. He's 91 now. And he treated me very much like Steve's father treated him. But it was from a space of love, not fear. And I experienced fear. And so it is such a great reminder. And I love how Steve Hardison approached that directly. And so I've done a lot of work on letting go of resentments. And I have a very, very close relationship with my father now. And we've been very close since 2009. I had a opportunity to spend time at the Hoffman Institute, did a lot of work on my pattern of resentment. And so have been able to turn that relationship around completely with my father. And so grateful for that. And this is such a wonderful reminder of how important it is to really be clean inside and don't allow any kind of resentments to impact your world and your being, because it does. It reverberates out into the collective consciousness. And so letting go of that and being loving is so important. So that's my share.
Wow, that was absolutely beautiful, Karen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There were so many things that you said during that. Clean inside. We're full of poison and resentment and hate and all those things. What are we creating? And just hearing you share that just really like resonates, and just the creation that you made surrounding that relationship with your father, just absolutely beautiful. So many wonderful ideas and thoughts just come up, from that share, where you can just relate it back to yourself and look to see, well, how am I really showing up, and who am I really being, and what is inside of me? Am I clean of those thoughts and those feelings that are holding me back and keeping me from being who I really want to be? So that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for that share.
Thank you,
All
Elizabeth.
right. Yeah, thank you. All right, Tom, I see your hand up first. Would you like to unmute and share?
I think I'm unmuted. All right, so thank you, Sashin, Dave, and Karen, for those beautiful readings. So I'm in this room right now because I read an obscure Facebook post on a obscure coaching Facebook group, and someone said, get the book Prosperous Coach to someone else. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll get that book. So long story short, well, first of all, I must say, Rich Litvin, they do the book themselves. They read it themselves. So Rich does his part and they go ping pong back and forth. Steve, Rich, and it's just really, really good. I kind of felt really drawn to Steve's voice and the way he talked. So now I'm in I'm in this group, and a big part of this is Mike Coates, my friend, and he lives near me. We were on a board of a failed charter school years ago, and so just stayed friends with him, and he invited me to his house about, let's say it was not even 2 months ago, where Steve Chandler was the guest, or the featured guest, I guess. And Steve shared for an hour and a half, and it went by like that. And anyone that's been coached by Steve know he's hilarious. I mean, the guy had me in stitches. Funniest guy, in a way that no one else can do. He does it his way. He talked about the victim creator mindset. He did a thing about how people are created from the outside world, and how we train our kids how to look for the outside world to create ourselves. He drew a football field. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the football field thing, and it was a way of explaining being by drawing a football field. And I'm not going to go into it now, but anybody wants to know, I'm glad to share it. He talked about acknowledgement, and he has a whole technique for acknowledgement. But what's really cool is the very next day, I'm drawing the football field for people, and I'm sharing the story about the little girl who came home from school and was so happy, and then I've shared countless times about how to acknowledge someone, and how to, or even, I think it's how to acknowledge, but it's also how to be critical and have it be accepted in a way that it's like not a criticism. So Steve Chandler, and then I got this book here with 180 chapters in it, has made a huge difference in me personally, Tom Lipinski, who I am being, and in the coaching service I provide to my clients. And I'm just, as I'm hearing all this, I wrote one down: trying is an excuse. Selling is enrolling people in their ideas. Karen, what you just said, Sasha, what you said, Dave, what you said, all these things have just add to this, to Steve Chandler, to what he has brought to my life. And I've got Steve Chandler books all around the house. Some of them I've started, some of them I've read twice, some of them I have barely looked at, but they're laying around in different places. And he will always be there. I'll tell you, any chance I get to be in a room with that guy, I'm taking it. And I am complete.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. One thing that came up for me when you were sharing, Thomas, like that criticism part, like constructive criticism. Don't look at it as an attack, look at it as an opportunity to learn. So I love that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Most people, I mean, I know for me, anything like that as a criticism is usually taken the wrong way. But Steve has this approach, and he role plays it with his daughter, something that happened with his daughter. I'm sure, Karen, you probably have heard the story about the frosted flakes in the bowl. And if not, he made it up on the fly. But I've told that story myself, making it up on the fly with my own kids, because it's such a good story. But anyways.
Yeah. Sharing the gold.
Turn it over to Teresa.
Yes. Miss Teresa.
Well, thank you very much. These are all really wonderful comments that are being made. I take away from this a little bit differently, because Steve Chandler was actually living to make his father right. That's where his living was in all of the things that his dad was saying. But sometimes, and in my life, I've found that when somebody reaches in a little differently, maybe you hear a little differently. That's what I'm getting from this, was then Steve heard differently. And it was enough to break a cycle of a lifetime. Isn't that interesting? A few words that can break the cycle of a lifetime. And Steve Chandler would have known the history of his family. And there we have those things so close to us. We know those things, but we don't go back and look at our parents as people. And so that Steve Hardison could go in and replay his father back to him and let him know your father didn't want you to have to live without finances, without money. That's what that was all about. My mom, my grandpa used to say, Maureen cuts right through the muck. And that's what she does. She cuts right through the muck. And there would be a couple of times going to her that she would repeat the same statement to me that it used to piss me off so bad. And she would say, what was your contribution? But now I love that because that has two sides. You could either look at it negatively or you can also look at it positively. And so in a situation, I have that duality that helps me out to correct me, but also to lift me. So I thank my mother for that. I think sometimes we really undercredit our parents. It's always nice when you hear somebody bring you back around into the front side of those things. Steve Chandler, I agree with Tom, his sense of humor. The delivery that he has is just as slick as grease snot when it comes in at you. And then all of a sudden you're slapped with a Benny Hill on the back of the head and you just can't stop laughing. But sometimes it's not till a day later that it dawns on you what he just pulled out. And to think that that's the same man who was worried about what he would charge an individual for his talent just blows me away. So this is a fun chapter for a lot of reasons. One of the things that I'll take away from this, though, is we all have a tendency to underrate ourselves. You know, in psychology, they'll tell you that actually the difference that most people will overrate themselves. They'll think they're bigger or doing better than what they really are. And that might be true, but when it comes to putting a price tag on it, we seem to have a problem there. I don't know why that is, but we do. So that's what I have. Thanks for listening, and thank you for all of your contributions. They're really awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Always love it when you share because you can always bring the humor just the same as anybody else. So, and such wisdom with that too. Just absolutely love it. Okay. And then Harry, I saw you had your hand up. You just put it down. Would you like to share with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, so my Chrome is good. I know I put the hands up, so you call me, so I put the hand down, just not disturb. But basically, this chapter is really like resonated me a lot recently. So I always create my mind like, hey, that I have a happy mind. I could say that I have happy mind. But one thing I still considering, hey, what are you gonna feel like if I have a healthy body and happy mind by the same time? And you know, I proposed it for a long time. I didn't do exercise. I just like, hey, I'm happy mind. That's great. And so recently I say like, okay, I want to have happy mind and healthy body by the same time. And so in this reading we have like it could be a 5 years or 5 months. It could be a 5 years or 5 months, and really resonate with me. Okay, I think that I can do it like not a 5 years, but I can do it for a month. So but I think like in Vietnam, you come to Vietnam, the food was so good. I couldn't not willing to do diet instead of eating the food was so good and say no, today gonna be a day one. Today gonna be a day one of me. I'm gonna have 1 month. I have a 1 month transform my body. I said, but the food was so good. And I remember that I stopped myself that time and was saying, hey Harry, are you in the world of considering or in the world of playing? Like considering as a food, so should I do this or I do that? No, I want to be in the world of playing. So I say, oh, I'm gonna be 1 month. I want to transform my body. And so it's today right now. It's like I think an 18 day or like 20 day, and I lost about 4 kilograms. But I remember that I never went to the gym. I went to the gym. So I went to the gym, and then first day I pushed. Oh, it's so hard. It's so heavy, and say, hey, hang on, like, and so I remind the book, Be Brooklyn. So I like, hey, I jump up and say, I'm strong, healthy, and go gracious. And so like, somehow I come back and I can push it. And so like be brutally, be someone can do that. So I crash it and be someone can. I just like every time I do this the rap, I say I'm strong, healthy, and will crash it. I'm strong, healthy, and will crash it. I'm strong, healthy, and will crash it. And so it's worked for me. And so right now, like 20-day, 4 kilogram gone, and I still have a 12-day left. I'm gonna crash it. Thank you. That's my story. Thank you very much.
Awesome. 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 I love that. It shows like your mindset. And when you change that thought process of how you want to create yourself, look what you are capable of doing. Like, I'm going to do this. You are Bruce Lee. You did that, Harry. But you are Harry or happy, according to Anne Marie. So awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Charmaine, would you like to share?
Yes, I would. First of all, I'm so happy to be here. It's been a while since I was able to get back, so um, I'm happy. The three things that really stood out for me, one of them was like knowing our own value. That really stood out. The $1,250 versus the 40,000 that he could get from just someone advocating for you and increasing your worth just in a short amount of time. Then the other thing that really stood out for me was don't be you, be anybody as long as you can do the job. And the other one that stood out for me was the book about the motivation. I think that what I wrote was like I said, it takes only one person to believe in you so that you can be catapulted to the next level. And I thought that was really beautiful. And I had the opportunity finally. Last year, I was telling, I think Teresa was just saying, I wish I could meet Steve Hardison in person. And that really, I was able to do that in July. And he just showed up out of nowhere at a conference. And so I was so excited. I ran after him and I said, "Oh, Mr. Steve, do you know who I am?" He said, "Of course I know who you are." And he had never met me, but he had seen my pictures. And then we had a chance to take pictures with him and everything. So towards the end, I said, "Well, since you are leaving," he was just there to surprise the Alok, the presenter. I said, "Can you just sign your name? I know you never sign books or anything." And I gave him my diary. And he signed it. And he wrote in that book, he said, "Promise me you will never stop growing." And for me, that was very beautiful because I realized that learning is the key to opening our minds, opening our hearts, and just honoring ourselves in whichever capacity you are. So, in this last 3 months from July till now, I feel so much different in the way I see myself, I perceive myself, and just having community around is so important of like minded people that raise your vibration up, put together, and push you towards your best self. So being is important, and I'm learning to do that as well. So thank you.
Mm,
And by
that
the way,
was
Sachin,
beautiful.
it's so good to see you actually on this call. I can't believe I'm going to see you in Arizona. I'm going to call you. So please make sure we get to see each other for just a tad bit. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I love what you just shared because when you said it only takes one person to believe in you, and I think that, what came up for me is like, even when we're talking about the validation of wealth, it's like, it's you. The answer is you. That one person that you need, it's you. You need to believe in yourself and you need to recognize your own worth. So thank you for that. I love that. Terry, would you like to unmute and share?
Yes. I believe this night was meant for me. I highlighted in the book, I can get back to it. The things I believed I couldn't do were only beliefs. They weren't really the truth. And second, I learned that it is always about who you need to be, not what you need to do. What you need to do will flow from who you are being. So many of you know that I'm creating my next chapter of my life since my husband died in January. And there's just a ton of things that I don't want to do or that I'm afraid to do. And about 2 weeks ago, I decided to own a second part of me, which I call my empowered and joy-filled Terry. And this piece of me is guiding me, talks to me, and tells me, encourages me. So tonight, I had an infection that I needed to go to urgent care for. And I thought I would have plenty of time to get back before it got dark, etc., because I really don't like driving in the dark. And so I got there and everything took longer. I ended up not only driving in the dark, but it was raining. I got into the wrong lane. And the entire time I'm saying, Terry, you've got this. Look at this girl. You've got this. You've got this. Got there, got the prescription and everything. And then as soon as I was like back on the last little stretch, I'm going, wow, you got it. I was saying that to myself the entire last little bit. And so when you guys wanted us to put down how we were feeling, I put empowered before this whole thing started. And you just really, really made that just tripled for me. So I thank you.
Congratulations, Terry, the empowered and joy-filled Terry. Thank you for showing up tonight. Thank you for who you're being. We are so excited to be here with you along this journey. Thank you for your powerful share.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Daniel, would you like to share with us, please?
Yeah, thank you. And Karen, I reiterate what a beautiful reading you did of that part. And this chapter for me, like from the first time, it was like sparkling, glowing, exciting. And every time I've heard it or read it, it has that same power for me. And so there's three pieces that jump out for me. One is the well, the same thing you said, Karen, too, that Steve Hardison's championing of Steve Chandler, it's so inspiring. And to me, it's like, I want to be that for everybody. And to me, that's one of those just most beautiful things, that it costs nothing, right? It's like, it's so easy to do. It takes no time. And yet it's like so powerful what that can do for someone. To me, it's like a no-brainer. Put that on my list every day. I'm growing into that best I can. And that the moment where Steve Hardison took the the 1250 instead of being his fee, being the raising of the rates that way, to me is just such a beautiful reminder of it's all in our freaking heads, right? Like, just like that moment of they didn't bat an eye, right? Like, and it's just amazing. It's phenomenal, and so, and then the last one that was sparked for me was kind of a memory or an association with the Stop Blaming Your Father. I had this really fascinating experience many years ago. I was staying at this radical therapy center in Holland, and one of the things that we did was role playing. And we, for a period, all of us that were in this kind of family intensive group were assigned for a time to play the role of our mother, to act like our mother. And literally we would dress up like them and do our best to kind of impersonate them. And then there was, so I did that for a while. And then I had the opposite one was role playing my father. Now, I went into this and did my father first, and he was a heavy duty alcoholic and in many ways harmless. And I thought he was funny. I thought my impersonation of him, my role playing, would be funny. And the reactions that I got from everybody else, what was like pity, sadness. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And then on the flip side, my own perception of my mother was she's so annoying. I was so triggered by her and blamed her for so much. So I did my impersonation of her, and I thought everyone else would be like, oh my God, what, she's like so annoying and so problematic. And people were enthralled by her. They were amused and charmed. And I had to like step back and go, wow, right? Like I was channeling her in some way, impersonating her. And the response from everybody else was so different from my own it was just this moment of like, wow, I think I twisted it. I think I got things a little wrong. I just put this add-on to it. So yeah, it was a very powerful shift for me. And that stop blaming your father, that moment where Steve Chandler just clicked into another way of seeing. That's what it reminded me of. So yeah, this chapter is just so exciting and powerful. And having missed a couple of the last book readings too, I'm very glad to be back with y'all. Thank you. Aloha.
Yes. Thank you, Daniel. We are happy that you are back with us as well. And thank you for that wonderful share. And with that, it is that time where I want to say thank you, each and every one of you, for sharing. It was so awesome. And we have got some fun times coming up here. I'm going to pass it over to Miss Fari. So we're going to give her the floor. She's going to take it away and bring us home. Thank you, Fari.
Well, good evening. Are we starting? What a night. Karen, what a delightful, delicious voice you have. You got to do that Audible, girlfriend. I will have that Audible with me 90 times and I would, oh my God, why did you stop reading? Why didn't you go to the next chapter? It was brilliant the way you read. Fabulous. Thank you so much for your presence, for your reading. You made it so special to all of us. Thank you, Sasheen. I've always heard about you, never seen you. Lovely to meet you. I hear so much about you from Karen, and I heard you're a delightful soul. Thank you for being here with us. It's a pleasure to be here, to be a help, to learn and grow. My goodness, this chapter was one of those ones that helped me to begin. Not that I did it fully, but I've begun to forgive my father when he said, don't fault your father. For 60 some odd years, I hated my father. And I was like, I couldn't say one single word good about him ever, because every time I talked about him, I remembered how he beat me up and how he beat all of us up. And with that, it started for me to learn that how much I have carrying this bag of nothing on my shoulders. It only hurts me and it's not helping me. And I started learning, what do you do with that? And I started learning that how easily it is to get rid of it. And now, 2 years later, every time I talk about my father, I just say, he was the best man. He was a great soul. I'm a strong person because of him. I am who I am because of his genes in me. I have grown to be who I am because of his consistency on who he was. And I could see everything that he did. It was only because of his fear from life for us not to step on his shoes. And Steve Hardison's teachings in very many different ways has opened me to be a better person in each and every way that I could have, because it was first my father I hated, then he was my martial art teacher, who was also my boss. And I remember we were, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the outfit of a karate, is white outfit, and they called it a gi. And I was wearing that, getting my black belt, and it was full of blood. I literally had to, my hair was really, really long and heavy, and I had it in a ponytail. So he got other guys to wrap their hands around my hair and pull me down so I can fight for it. And I just kept on swearing at my father, why am I getting a black belt? I don't need to, but I'm getting it because I want to fight you, father. And my father was already dead, but it was all in my head. And finally, I got the bloody black belt. And what did I do? I trashed it down the toilet. I never used it again, but I've been teaching forever in anger until I learned so much from this book in different chapters, all of it, that how much it taught me. At the end of the day, love conquers it all. And how much I didn't want to know. There is as much anger and frustration that there is, just as much and plus more, there is love. And when I learned to switch it on to that, thank to Steve Hardison to Byron Katie to Wayne Dyer, all these people that they have taught me to become a better person that I am. And this book, every chapter of it, having value for yourself and not selling you cheap in 1,250, and then it goes to be that expensive. It's just like, it's unbelievable how much growth is there. When a client says to me, oh, you're expensive, I said, look, you can buy a pair of shoes from Payless, or you go to a very good department store. Choice is yours. I am that department store. Before, I didn't know that I have a value. I didn't know that I can say, this is my price. And every chapter of this book has been that reminder, has been just that confirmation, not just a reminder, confirmation of our growth. And that's why I call it a Bible of being. I call it daily Bible. I don't call it just a book and it's called the ultimate coach. I've not called that for the longest time. I call it daily Bible, really, because it teaches me to be a better person every single second. And I wanted to continue with the announcement, but I see Renata's got her hand up. Would you like to share, my love, before I go on?
Thank you, sweetheart. I know I'm a little late.
You
but,
never.
But what you just said, that was like one-on-one with my experiences.
I love you. Roosters there too, by the way.
So it was the same story. Father beating us, and I was the oldest, so I get most of it because I was always held responsible for everybody else too. But I realized at some time doing that work that he caused me to be the rebellion and to break out of the box in a very early age as a teenager. And then with 20, I left my parents' house and I did things my parents didn't want me to do. You know, going for studying. College was not in our family. So I did that. And yeah, he made me the person that I am. And many of you might know Stein, what is my family name, means stone. And for the longest time, my heart was like stone because I had to protect it. But now it's softened up, and it happened in the last 3.5 years. When the world shut down, my heart opened up. And the biggest breakthroughs I had within the last 10 months being in this community. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And I can't wait to see you in Arizona or in Birmingham.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
My aim is to come to both events.
Fabulous. Good for you. That's marvelous. Well, thank you for your delightful share, my darling. It's always nice to have you here. Please do come back. And we love your rooster also, you know, it gives a nice music at the background. So it's all great. Yes. So yeah, well, as we wrap for tonight, I just want to remind you that on Sunday morning, we have the fabulous book reading, another one that our darling Martha Jaffa, our very own, is going to be reading. It is the I forgot the chapter. The name of it is to do with the Santa Monica. It was brilliant, and I've read it so many times. And our Martha is certified from there, so that's a beautiful chapter to listen. And Martha has got another one of those voices when she is singing delightfully as she's reading it. So that's a great chapter to be on. And we have our two wonderful events that is coming up. One is in Arizona on the 26th and 27th of January. And that the benefit, all the money, every bit of it goes for the sex trafficking of children. And then we have the big one in May of 24 in Birmingham, United Kingdom. And is for another children hospital. If I pronounce it right, it's called what did I say? Coachella? Cochlear, I think.
Cochlear.
Cochlear. Thank you, baby. Cochlear Hospital, and is for children hard of hearing, and it's for a great event. Every dime of it goes for helping those kids. So if you have any interest, you can say yes, and we can put in the comment here on the chat, and we can send you the link for it. The link would also be on the Facebook, and I always say, if you can't go, you can always donate, and you can always be a help towards it, because it's just a great help. And outside of our book reading, we have our podcast, our YouTube, our LinkedIn, and Instagram. Every platform has a lovely, eye-opening. The podcasts are amazing. I don't know which one to say it's not amazing, because they all are. So it's a wonderful place to be. And please get in, share, talk, post, go live, and let's make this place a bigger place. I always love to thank Eric Latham. Otherwise, this would have been another book. It wouldn't be where it is today. Have the Facebook group and be here, share, talk about, learn about each other, find out about each other, and we grow from the learning. So it's a great thing to do. And we will have an after party, which will be not recorded, and you can stay and you can share for as much and as long as you want to go, and you can share on there. And my darling Charmaine, you can wait and share after the party, if that's all right with you. And for that matter, we can just unmute now and say some loving word and goodbye. And love is the best thing to say. And you can stay or you can leave, however it is. So let's unmute. And I love you all. Thank you for being here, and have a wonderful evening. So
Loving you all.
Sorry.
Thank you, everyone.
Tom,
Thank you
we
for
would like to
coming.
hear you.
Thank you.
See you in the after party.
You.
thanks
Bye.
again,
Thank
Karen.
you,
Great
It was
to see you,
Karen.
excellent.
Charmaine.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Tom.
everyone.
Thank you,
So much.
Karen.
You.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thanks,
Thank you
Ken.
so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
It was a beautiful reading.